Are there things that we can just tease apart to better understand your health and how you're approaching your health, right? So it can become really dynamic. Like this isn't, like a linear approach to health. This is a data point to kind of set us into motion and start asking questions, have that individual client start asking questions, figure out what their goals are, what their background is. But it allows us to kind of ask some of those questions too. So we can kind of approach this collaboratively, right? Because health is just so unique. I mean, your health journey is different than my health journey. We're at different stages in our health journey, but ultimately, like we're both trying to be live healthy lives, live long lives, have longevity. And I think I think it's safe and fair to say that's a commonality of most people, right? Most people don't want to wake up with pain and ailments and be sick. People want to be healthy and enjoy their lives.
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who is out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode. Hey, welcome to The Exploding Human. My name is Bob Nickman. My guest today is Jason Bellvill with BodySpec, and we're going to be talking about all the benefits of doing what is called a DEXA scan. But first, let me invite you to visit my website, theexplodinghuman.com. Over there, you can listen to episodes, read synopses, see photos of my guests, little bio on myself. There's a donate button if you'd like to support the show through Patreon. Thank you very much. There's also a YouTube channel, The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman, where you can listen to episodes, and The Exploding Human Facebook page. As I said, my guest today is Jason Bellvill. He's one of the co-founders of a company called BodySpec, which you can find on the internet under bodyspec.com. And Jason is going to talk to me today about the DEXA scan. It's a very interesting machine. I did a DEXA scan. I'm going to tell you more about that in a little bit. This is actually part one, because part two is going to be Jason and I going over the results of my DEXA scan. But this episode will be talking about the benefits of the DEXA scan and what it can tell us about bone density, body mass, fat, distribution of fat in the body, and how we can use these statistics to track our health and our well-being, and what maybe we can discover using these statistics to improve our health, and maybe see a doctor about something. There might be indications of something. This machine was originally designed to check bone density for people with osteoporosis, but then it's been used in sports medicine, and there's lots of other uses for this machine. And BodySpec also has trucks with these machines in them, so they do mobile scanning. Really interesting business model, and we're going to talk about how that got started too. So here he is. This is Jason Bellvill. Good afternoon, Jason. It is great to meet you in person on Zoom.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
So give us a little background about the company first, and then I'm going to get into how you got into this.
Company is BodySpec. It's been around for about 8 years now. We launched it in Los Angeles, and the entire premise is just to give people more access to health information. That's it. So the delivery vehicle is a DEXA scanner. I don't know how many folks are familiar with that, but it's essentially a bone densitometer. It measures bone density. So Many years ago, DEXA scanners were created to help with the diagnosis of osteoporosis, osteopenia, as folks were getting older, and there's greater cause for concern with injury and even death related to osteoporosis and bone disease. there was kind of this, impetus to measure and track that, try to diagnose it earlier on. So the machines themselves, they measure bone density, but they do a phenomenal job of measuring bone fat and lean tissue. So that's not what they were originally created for, but the use case is, they started being used in human performance facilities. Professional athletes had access to these. The U.S. Olympic Training Center was using these, but DEXA scanners were kind of this well-kept secret to measure body composition for a long time, until we came on the scene and started making it publicly available.
So everything you just said, I did not know except for bone density scanning for osteoporosis, because I know my mother had that, so she got some bone density scans, but I didn't know there was such a thing as bone fat. I understand about tissue, that makes sense to be able to tell what's going on with the tissue, but bone has fat.
And maybe I was misheard. I was saying that the scanner itself measures bone and measures fat.
Oh, okay.
And it measures muscle.
Oh, there was a comma there.
Differentiates. Yeah, comma. Okay. Yeah, not bone hyphen fat.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it does a good job of differentiating between the tissue, which is something that not all, there's a lot of ways to measure body fat, but not all of them can do that.
So let's say I am a person that's interested in this, which I am. I come in and I say, give me this DEXA scan. Does it stand for something, by the way?
Yeah, DEXA is short for dual energy X-ray absorptiometry. So it's a fancy way of saying there's basically two X-ray energy peaks that are going through your body. That's it.
Okay. So I come in, and let's say we do this scan, and I did go to the website and I saw some of the readouts, which I had a little bit of difficulty reading because I never had done it before. I did okay on it, but I thought, geez, this will be really helpful if somebody were to explain what these numbers actually mean. So what are we looking for in terms of, ranges of ideal? And then what can we do when maybe a number is, let's say there's something going on with your body fat that it's just sky high, and so then where do you go from there?
Yeah. So I guess let's kind of address your first question, in terms of, what does the data mean? What are kind of some ideal ranges? Like, how do people look at the data? So there's body fat percent on the report, but there's many other components of it. So we can kind of focus on body fat percent and then talk about some of those other elements. But, for men, for example, what I've typically seen, low to mid 20s, that's kind of, I would say, like your average normal range, not to put like a hard goalpost on either end of that, but just to provide some guidance. And like for some of the more athletic profiles, I would say low to mid teens. So of course we see people that are sub 10% body fat, just depending on, their athletic profile. And we might see professional athletes with, high teens body fat percent, but that might be, offensive lineman or someone that is just carrying more mass to begin with. And then for women, similarly, on average, like a normal range, low to mid 30s. So 30%, like I don't even flinch. I don't even bat an eye to that. And then once we're getting into like the high teens, low 20s, that's getting into kind of like a more athletic profile. We don't see too many women that are down in like the low to mid teens. They do get there, but again, different profile, different goals, objectives. So that kind of sets the stage for what we see for those measurements.
So women have a higher percentage of body fat, is what you're saying, generally, like 10% higher. Okay.
They do.
Not that that's a bad thing. It just is. Yeah.
By design. Yep. That's how it works. Yeah. In terms of some of the other metrics that we report, that's kind of the focus. I mean, what a lot of people, they kind of fixate on that, but the report itself, and this is maybe some of the information that was harder to decipher when you were looking at it by yourself. But I mean, we're reporting on visceral fat. So I'm telling you how much of the bad fat you have actually in and around your organs. I mean, I can pinch my arm right now and I can get a handful of subcutaneous fat. We can feel that, we can see it. But the stuff around your organs, you can't necessarily do that. But that's the stuff that's metabolically active. I mean, that can lead to metabolic disease, type 2 diabetes. I mean, that can actually create some real complications. So kind of getting a mark for that visceral fat number, tracking it over time, monitoring it, trying to drive it down with changes to diet, changes to exercise, just changes, healthier changes to lifestyle in general. That's critically important, just in terms of like longevity, health longevity. We report on bone density. So just the strength of your bones. I mean, we can give, it's not a diagnostic test, but I can tell you, Bob, like, hey, your bone density is better than 80% of other guys your age. Like, congrats, keep it up. I can also say, hey, Bob, like 80% of the other guys your age have better bone density than you. So let's pay attention to this. And how can we start tracking and improving it over time? So, and there's other things. There's muscle symmetry, so we can track imbalances. That's good for, post-op, surgery. Someone had an ACL surgery. I can show them atrophy in one side of their leg. We can report on resting metabolic rate to help people dial in their nutrition and calories. So it's a robust report for what we charge and how quick and easy it is. I mean, this is the data that you want.
Yeah, it's like $40 or something, right? Something like that.
That's it. Yeah. So $40 is our membership price. But most of the folks that we work with, they come in on a repeated basis, because the real value in doing the scan is doing it again, right? And it's not just hoping that something has changed. In a lot of cases, it's hoping that nothing has changed, right? It's like going to the dentist, right? You don't go to the dentist hoping like your teeth are better. You go to the dentist hoping you don't have a cavity. So, a lot of people kind of use the data reactively to kind of, quantify a nutrition challenge or a New Year's challenge or some type of input that they've done. And then they're hoping to see, 2% body fat drop or what have you. But a lot of clients now are just, again, using it as a preventative health measure to just make sure that things are still in line and things aren't falling off track.
So there's a lot of power in information, and that's what you're offering is very clear and precise information about what's going on inside.
Absolutely. Yeah. We need to get you on the scanner because you're right there in Santa Monica, right?
I am. I will agree to a scan.
2 scans. I'm giving you 2 scans, Bob. We're going to get you on there. We'll get you on there again. You'll see.
and so let's say, okay, I do the scan. Let's say, body fat's, a little higher than I want it to be. Maybe bone density is not quite where I want it to be. Then what happens? Am I speaking with someone else who is more in line with the nutritional side? What do you have coaches? What goes on after the scans so people can actually make the changes? Or maybe you don't do that.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's a good point. And we do that because there's a lot of value in that, and getting the information and then just trying to find actionables that people can use to understand and improve it over time. So after the scans we do back to back to back. And so we get the scan done so we can get the data, but all the clients that go through, they have the opportunity to speak with one of our team members and kind of do a consultation. We do them remotely. But we'll hop on a call and our team will pull up the individual's report, and then that person will have it in front of them. And then we can actually walk through it line by line, talk about specific concerns. It's not a full-blown nutrition program that we're offering, for example, or like a training template that we're going to provide. But, to get people moving in the right direction with this data, if the bone density is low, there's things that we can recommend that are, time tested and proven and can help that person just in changing like daily habit and daily routine. So things like that, that are incredibly valuable for our clients.
You take information from people about those things prior to the scan, or, in other words, how do you eat? What kind of vitamins do you take? What is your exercise regimen? Or maybe you do that after.
Yeah. So in terms of the intake form, we really don't. We used to early on, just to get a little bit more of like the background and the profile information. But, these things, I mean, once we get somebody on the phone and once we're talking to them and kind of hearing the story, hearing the background, like the nuances of an individual's health, I mean, all of that is out, the intake form is out the window. If I ask someone how many times a week are they eating vegetables, it's like that. Yes, that's helpful in the moment to kind of get a sense, but I mean, I want to talk to that person. I want to find out, I want to find out about their schedule, about their life, about their work. Why can't they get 3 meals in a day, or why are they skipping breakfast, or why are they sleeping 5 hours? It's like, you have to be curious, you have to investigate, but like none of that, intakes are helpful, but there's just so much value to like talking to somebody, asking those questions.
Can you give me a story about, let's call it a success story?
Give you a lot of stories.
Yeah. I just give me something that, like somebody, kind of one of the more interesting kind of discoveries and changes that have happened. Because I love that kind of stuff. Where I came in, I didn't know my bones were going to break in half the next day. And before I knew it, I was pole vaulting.
Yeah. We've actually, we've scanned quadriplegics, like Olympic athletes.
Oh man.
It just made me think of that for some reason. I mean, we just have such a unique profile and spectrum of like individual that we've tested. Everyone from professional athletes to medically supervised weight loss clients and everyone in between. Right. So we've seen the whole spectrum. Yeah, I mean, over the years, we've seen some pretty incredible results, right? So, we've of course seen the success case of, someone losing a dramatic amount of weight, but using our scan to kind of stay on track to make sure that they weren't, stripping away too much lean mass and the fat tissue was coming off the way it was supposed to, and we were tracking visceral fat. So those are really powerful stories because that changes somebody's life. Someone who's not able to stand without support or assistance to them getting out and walking a 10K, right? Pretty incredible. I had one client, this is kind of interesting. I had one client, he was a professional poker player, and he was on the circuit, and, just the lifestyle, he was drinking and smoking and partying and doing what he does, right? They were winning a lot of money. They were losing a lot of money. They were traveling on planes, hotels, whatever. So that was the life. And this guy, he shot up to 30% plus. So I think he was like maybe 34-35% body fat. So he was overweight, he was out of shape, he wanted to change. And I guess he was at a game one time, and there were, some other guys were talking shit about him, and they put a bet down. It was $1 million bet that he couldn't get down less than 10% body fat. And I think he had, 2 or 3 months. So this was, there was an arbitrator on it. Legal was involved. This was high stakes, and they were gamblers, and they were all putting money in a pot. And so this guy, he took on like 3 personal trainers, 3 nutritionists. He was going, he went for it. But on the last, so he was using our service. He was scanning every single week, essentially, just to track progress and make sure like he was on par. But, yeah, he ended up getting down to like 8.9% or something by the end of the bet, won it. It was like in the paper and stuff. It was pretty cool.
I love that. Not only did he won the bet, he made $1 million, and he got healthy.
A lot of win-win-win there.
Oh, I love that story. That's a better story than I thought I was going to get.
Yeah. That was very unique. That was a very unique situation.
And he got to do his thing, his gambling thing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we see all sorts of stuff like that.
Like what is your past that you became interested in this and wanted to go for something like this? Because it's really, somebody, you and your partners obviously had a very unique take on this equipment. Yeah. So you had some sort of a training and something prior to this.
Yeah. Yeah. So my partner, I mean, a lot of credit to my two partners right now. It's a married couple, Roy and Elaine Shee. Elaine, I was introduced to her through a friend. So she was at UCLA. She was at business school with a good friend of mine, a good colleague of mine, who started off in BodySpec as well. But her and the other gentleman had basically they did like the entire academic exercise. So they ran the feasibility study and they did the business plan, and they were seeing if there was actually a viable business that could be, created from scanning people with this technology. My familiarity though with the technology was because I went to the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. And I played soccer growing up. So I played in college. I played a little bit beyond college as well. But we had a DEXA scanner in our human performance lab. So all the athletes, week in, week out, we were getting kind of ran through the technology to be measured, track body fat percent. And then our coaches and nutritionists and trainers were using the data to kind of tweak protocol. So I had familiarity with the technology as a user, and knew it was pretty niche and there's limited access. But then it wasn't until a few years down the road that this was being investigated as a business opportunity. And at that time, I was getting out of the military. I served in the Air Force for 6.5 years, and I was transitioning out. This business was kind of taking off and growing legs. And so I was able to sync up with Elaine and, we were able to work on it full time.
Oh, what a circuitous route. I love that. Really interesting. Yeah. I never would have guessed any of that. That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now you're in a lot of cities and there's mobile scanning going on, correct?
Yeah. That's kind of a game changer right there, because we started this business as a mobile business. And I'll tell you, Bob, that's a really hard mobile business is really flipping hard. It's difficult. There's just a lot of factors that I don't know if folks consider. It makes the operation a little more challenging than like showing up to your brick and mortar facility and like unlocking the door and turning on the lights. Things happen, accidents happen, batteries die, tires go flat, headlights go out, things just happen. And we launched this in Southern California. So, there's a little bit of traffic in LA and we have to deal with that. And but really that was and still is the competitive advantage that we have, because we're so good at the mobile operation, like the deployments, the staffing, the just optimizing, where we do events, where our team lives, where the trucks are parked, and just how to get deployments out efficiently, accurately. It's just, again, it was hard, but we're here, and that's kind of what makes us so good in this space. I mean, we're the largest provider of DEXA scans in the country, hands down. And so we do have a mobile fleet. We have 11 active mobile units in Seattle, in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, in Austin, in Dallas. But we also have 3 offices, one in San Francisco, one in Culver City, and one in Austin as well. So yeah, it's all about making this accessible though, and if you're mobile, I could drive right to your doorstep right now, Bob, and we can get you on the scanner and you have no excuses. No excuses.
Is the scanner in the like in a van? Is that where it is? Do you wash dogs too? Can you do that?
Yeah. No, it's full service.
I do both.
We do a lot, food truck.
I think it would be you probably already know this, but I just thought of it as you were talking. That would be a wonderful thing to do for a corporation, to invite the truck to come to their business and do health scans for their employees.
Yeah, we do that a lot.
Yeah, that would seems like it would save money in the long run if people are healthier, and it would be cost effective. It seems like too for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, we do that with a lot of corporations. You know, we participate in health fairs. We participate on a recurring basis. You know, they'll bring us out, you know, once a week or a few times a month, just to, you know, because some corporations have a lot of employees, and so we'll set up shop and we'll scan as many folks as possible. We see them on a regular basis, and it just keeps them engaged with their health. It keeps them paying attention to it, right? It's just like wearing a Fitbit or like wearing a Whoop band or your Apple Watch. It's like you have the data, it doesn't stop. It comes in, it gives you, it just gives you kind of a milestone and a biomarker to pay attention to. Because if you don't, you're going to go 6 months and then a year and then 5 years. And then you're going to go, oh shit, I should pay attention to this because I have high blood pressure and I'm pre-diabetic, and I should make a change on January 1st of this upcoming year.
Yeah. So it offers accountability to the person if they're willing to just take the test. There's a level of a reminder, a constant reminder of where they're at. Yeah. What are some of the conditions that you're able to notice in these besides, bone density and body fat? Are there other conditions that become kind of obvious during these scans?
Again, these aren't diagnostic tests where, you know, I pretend to be a doctor and tell somebody that they're type 2 diabetic. That's not how it works. But when we get these data points and we can kind of marry that up with an individual's story and their health background and their recent doctor's visit, right? Then we have an opportunity then there's a story there. There's a narrative where we can say, okay, well, you're measuring high cholesterol, you're measuring high blood pressure. Like, these are things that have also, been noted at your recent doctor's office. And, on our end, we're seeing like a significant amount of visceral fat that can be a cause of some of these other issues, right? For visceral fat, for example, that's something that we can identify, we can flag, because if the number is creeping into a range that we're not comfortable with, or that we have seen previously as being unhealthy, we can say, hey, it's time to get ahead of this, right? Because visceral fat can lead to type 2 diabetes, right? So what else can we investigate? What is your nutrition like? What's the blood sugar like? Have you measured, your glucose levels after you have a big pasta dinner? Like, are you insulin resistant? And like, are there things that we can just tease apart to better understand your health and how you're approaching your health, right? So it can become really dynamic. Like, this isn't, like a linear approach to health. This is a data point to kind of set us into motion and start asking questions, have that individual client start asking questions, figure out what their goals are, what their background is. But it allows us to kind of ask some of those questions too, so we can kind of approach this collaboratively, right? Because health is just so unique. I mean, your health journey is different than my health journey. We're at different stages in our health journey, but ultimately, like, we're both trying to live healthy lives, live long lives, have longevity. And I think I think it's safe and fair to say that's a commonality of most people, right? Most people don't want to wake up with pain and ailments and be sick. People want to be healthy and enjoy their lives.
So it sounds like even if it gets people to go to see a doctor if they haven't been in a while, just like, oh yeah, I have noticed that about me. Maybe you should take that to the next level and go see somebody about a possible diabetic condition, let's say. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, bone density, right? If I see a low score, I'm not going to be treating that individual for osteoporosis, but I'm absolutely going to say, hey, I noticed that this bone density readout is a little bit lower.
we would encourage you to reach out to your physician. This might warrant an actual bone density exam to isolate, your femur or your lower lumbar, to actually get a measurement at one of those fracture sites, and then go from there. Maybe it warrants medication. Maybe it warrants a different training program with load-bearing exercise. And it's like, we have to explore this stuff more. We can't ignore it, because health stuff doesn't just go away, and it doesn't just magically get better if you pretend like everything's fine. That's just not how it works.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that the body doesn't lie.
Yeah.
So you're going to get, whether you like it or not, you're going to get the information that's factual. It's numbers and science. So it seems like it would be super beneficial just in terms of, this is what it is. Take it or leave it, whatever you want to do. But that's, you can't deny this is the number.
Do you, for yourself, Bob, do you do anything like on kind of a routine or preventative basis, like in terms of your own health? I'm just curious.
Yes.
Kind of how you approach it. Yeah.
Well, I do a variety of things. One is meditation, big part of my life, daily meditation. So that is a stress reducer, which is very important, because I was going to ask you about stress here in a second, how that might show up. I don't eat sugar. I don't eat dairy. I don't eat gluten. I eat protein and vegetables mostly, and some fruit. I exercise probably 5 or 6 days a week of different types. So a lot of stretching and some strength stuff and walking.
Love it.
Yeah. I'm not like a gung ho fitness guy, but I want to feel good. I want to feel good, and also I've noticed, as I'm 68 years old. So stretching is really important to me. That's a big part of what I do, is to try to stay limber and twist my spine to
love it.
Stay that way. That's my thing. I mean, I know some people, they're just really avid exercise people. I don't have that personality type to go after it that way, but I love to move my body. I think that's like super important.
Health is a very personal subject, right? And it's an intimate thing, right? And our backgrounds and our family histories and our medical history, I mean, all of that it's very personal, it's very intimate, it's very unique. And the journey is very unique too. Like I don't necessarily walk around preaching that everyone should be doing CrossFit 2 times a day. And there's folks that do that, and I applaud them, and I think it's great, right? And there's folks that get up and they walk every day, and there's folks that do yoga, and it's a big umbrella. Like the health umbrella, health and wellness is a big umbrella. There's a lot of different ways to approach it, but ultimately it comes down to the individual. Like, how can you feel your best on a day-to-day basis, right? And how can your mind, your body, your spirit, those factors that you can kind of control, like how do you best control them, right? I mean, you got to be have good inputs, in order to perform your best and feel your best. And so, no, I mean, when people tell me about what they do and their health and how they approach it, anything is better than nothing.
Yeah. Yes, it is.
It just is. Getting up and walking and stretching is better than not doing that, right? So I applaud that.
So obviously you were an athlete, so you probably still do a lot of that kind of stuff, I would think. You look pretty fit to me. No?
Well, I was an athlete. Was an athlete.
Okay.
No, I mean, I try. I try, but that's one of the challenges for me as well.
Let's talk about stress for a second, because I'll bet that does come up, even though we're doing you're doing a body scan and you're checking out actual numbers. Stress has a factor in this stuff. And I think it's a high stress society with a lot of distractions, and people get kind of spun out with that stuff. And certainly muscle tightening happens when you're stressed. Your gut churns a little bit, your chest gets tight. shoulders kind of raise up. I mean, and I would think that would affect some of those numbers.
I mean, it can show up in a couple of different ways on the report, kind of indirectly, right? Because I can't measure cortisol levels, can't measure thyroid response, but, stress, I mean, it triggers, stress hormones, triggers cortisol levels, right? And so cortisol is a fat storage hormone. I mean, too much of it for too long, I mean, you have the propensity to accumulate fat. It can also impact metabolic activity, right? So, that might be something where we actually encourage folks to measure their thyroid, because you can measure your thyroid levels. You can do different tests for that are non-invasive, to get a better sense of how your body is processing calories, how you're processing food, right? We get clients that come in that have these really, really restrictive diets, and they're really tight. Their macros are dialed in, calories are dialed in, everything is just dialed in, their exercise, everything. And they're not seeing any movement, in the direction they want based on their goals. And, we could do a resting metabolic rate test on them, and we can see that their metabolic activity, their thyroid might be underproducing. And so that can be hard to just process the calories. So, to get back to your question in terms of stress, if somebody's body fat percent isn't changing, let's say, or it's increasing, so all other factors being equal, right? They tell me that their training is on point, their nutrition is dialed in, and everything seems like it's clicking and moving in the right direction, but they sleep 4 hours a night and they work 16 hours a day, and their job is, all consuming, and they're always plugged in. I mean, you have to read between the lines a little bit, right? I mean, they're still working out an hour a day at 4 a.m. every morning, and then they go and work 13 hours a day, and they have a couple snacks throughout to kind of fuel, and then that's their life, day in, day out, 6 days a week.
Yeah,
that's hard for your body to respond positively, right? So in terms of or it could be something like more acute, someone's going through like a hard time for 3-4 weeks or a couple months, like an acute event, that can absolutely impact the body, and it can impact fat storage. So we read between the lines a little bit on this stuff.
Sounds like you can get so much information just by not only just the test, but the talking to somebody afterwards.
All of this stuff is very personalized and stuff. And so we're just grateful that we've been able to connect with so many clients over the years, because we've done almost 200,000 scans since we started. And
Damn.
Again, we're seeing the entire spectrum of people, and it's great. It's really great to kind of get that feedback, get that response, and get the engagement with the data, because everyone's engaging with it. You don't have to be a pro athlete to engage with this data, and you don't have to be, chronically ill to engage with the data, right? It's just everyone's on a different journey. So
be great if insurance paid for this stuff too, wouldn't it?
Right.
Even though you're not very expensive, so that's the good news.
We don't charge very much. No, it'd probably be the equivalent of a copay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, when you think about the information you're getting, it's an incredibly good price to come in and get that kind of information. I always find these kinds of testing are really interesting. And, certainly there's there's a whole range of blood tests that they don't do in conventional, year and physicals or yearly physicals that would be just of equal value in that, in the chemistry side. It's just insurance doesn't want to pay for it, but there's all kinds of cool stuff you can find out. What we were talking about the other day, a hair analysis, for toxins and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it'd be so great to be able to go. This is my fantasy, to have a place to go that you can do it all in once or twice a year, and it's paid for, and you get this readout, and but you got to be very proactive with this stuff because it's not coming to you.
The reality is that there's a very small percentage of Americans who prioritize routine preventative health. Like the healthcare system, it tends to be tends to be reactive. And so I'm not poo-pooing on the whole system. I mean,
Right.
it's just our response. Like, you don't really do anything until something is broken or something hurts or something, or you feel the illness. But gosh, I mean, for a little bit of effort, a little bit of time, a little bit of money, I mean, to stay ahead of these things, oof, I mean, that's a good deal. I mean, that's a good deal. It's a good approach.
Yeah, I've had a number of people on my podcast that have not made changes in their lives until something really crappy happened. Some sort of a physical ailment or a mental breakdown, or just where their life spun out of control and they had no other choice except to find a new way. Yeah. And those are people I love to have on too, because then people can identify with that, because like you say, totally. It's a small percentage that are like, want to be ahead of this stuff. Most people you don't think about it. If you feel fine or pretty good, or you don't even know you feel bad, you just kind of go do your day and, okay, I'm going to go home now and watch TV and go to sleep.
Do it again tomorrow. Groundhog's Day. Part of it's human nature, right? I mean, it's like, different events happen to different people. There's different responses, and we can't get ahead of everything, right? I mean, we can't, there's no crystal ball. You can't get ahead of everything. Take back a little bit of ownership of your body. I mean, you said it the other day when we were talking, actually. I mean, you get your body. That's what you get, right? I mean, you're born into this world and you get your body, and you have to take care of it. You get your mind, right? You have to take care of these things. And, there's real easy ways to do a lot of damage really quickly to them without even knowing it.
Well, and also the learned habits of childhood are really hard to break. My wife was at the grocery store yesterday. She was telling me she ran into somebody she knew, and the woman goes, "Oh no, I forgot my cereal," right? So, which is basically cardboard and sugar.
Yeah. Love it.
The box is probably as nutritious as what's in there. So the lady leaves and comes back to the line. She didn't have a box of cereal. She had like 15 boxes. Corn flakes, Captain
One of those bags.
Yeah,
just value bags.
Just pure. As a woman in her 50s, pure poison. And you're going, do you not like pay attention to anything nutritional? Don't you feel like crap? But it's comforting. It's known. It's probably what she ate when she was a kid. And, and so people don't think about like making those kinds of changes because unless they have to. Last thing I want to ask you about is what the actual machine looks like. How big is it? And is it in the process of getting the actual test seems pretty benign, I would think.
Yeah. The machine, I mean, it's a full body machine where a grown adult can lay down on it. So, I mean, the scan window itself, we could scan an individual who's up to 6'5". So like when we scan basketball players and stuff, like we'll chop off their feet, which is okay. We just don't measure like the bottom portion of their feet. And then the weight limit on the scanners is 350 pounds on the ones that are mobile. In our offices, we have bigger units that can support up to 450 pounds. It's just a different model of the same technology. Yeah. Those are the machines that were actually used on like The Biggest Loser, like the TV show, to measure folks. So yeah, I mean, these scanners, they fit into our vans. I mean, we have very large vans, and so we could fit the machine fully into the van. So we'll go on site, but the test itself, we book them in 12-minute increments. So it's fast. And we do book in 12 minutes. So you might get an appointment that's like 12:24 p.m. We're very militaristic about it.
Yeah.
But non-invasive. I mean, you don't have to get into a hospital gown or anything like that. We just remove all the metal from your body. So if you have watches, rings, earrings, things like that, we'll take those off. And you're just laying still for, 5 to 8 minutes, just depending on the size of the person. The scanner just does one pass over your body. So completely safe, very easy. The process is very easy. People can book online, with a couple clicks of the button, but I guess the last thing I would mention is that, it's an X-ray machine. So folks always ask, is it safe? Because there's radiation, and it's incredibly safe. So DEXA scanners on the spectrum of radiation are on the very, very, very low end. So getting one scan would be the equivalent of you flying to New York right now from where you are. Just standing outside, there's atmospheric radiation that we're exposed to, and it's on par with that. So very minimal amount. All of our techs are trained, super safe. People do it routinely. We have clients that scan, once a month or once every 2 weeks, just depending on. So, yeah.
That's great. So you're not in a tube or anything. You're just like, it's open.
Yeah, it's open. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. So if you're claustrophobic, like you'll be fine. You're not confined. It's not loud. It's definitely not like an MRI. It's pretty easy.
I've had a couple of MRIs, and it's I don't mind the claustrophobic part because I just kind of close my eyes and drift, but the sound in those things is just, it's crazy. I don't know why they can't make that a little quieter, but they can't yet. And I'm like, this is going to kill me. The sound.
It's terrible. Yeah. Maybe they can do something with the sound, but they don't, because now you're really getting an MRI.
Oh, maybe it's
like
getting my money's worth.
Yeah, it's like a feedback mechanism. Welcome to your MRI. This is real.
It's very real, and you get out, and no matter how nice the technician is, you hate them because they put you through. Yeah. So let's plug your website, and so people can, it's really worth going to the website because there's some tremendously great information, especially if you're in any of the cities that BodySpec is in. You can find and make appointments, and if you're not, fly to one of the cities and do it, or maybe there's other ways they can find it. But go to the website, plug the website, and
bodyspec.com. That's it.
BodySpec.
BodySpec, bodyspec.com. Yeah, go there. All the information's there. You can book an appointment online really fast. $40 for a monthly membership. For the membership too, I want to add, this is not you're not getting in a marriage with a cable company. So our memberships are very low key, very low risk. It's just most of our clients, they tend to scan on a recurring basis. So this just offers them the least expensive way to do that. But you can cancel anytime. You never lose your credits. So if you wanted to have a membership for 6 months and then scan once every 2 months, that's perfectly fine. But, we are just trying to make this available for people to engage with their health regularly. But yeah, membership pricing, $40 a month, $60 if you just want to try it once just for fun. But otherwise, that's it. It's that simple.
It's simple, and it's worth doing, in my opinion. And we'll see if my opinion matters to the people listening. Thank you so much, Jason. I really appreciate your time, and great work. Very valuable information and service.
Appreciate it, Bob.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to The Exploding Human, theexplodinghuman.com. You can check us out there. The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman YouTube channel, and the Exploding Human Facebook page. Big thanks to Jason Bellvill one more time. And please listen to the next episode, which will be part 2. And Jason and I are going to go over the results of the DEXA scan that I did at one of their facilities here in Los Angeles and Culver City. So tune in for that next episode. Have a fantastic day. Thank you.